Shalom, shalom, everybody. How y'all doing? What's up, baby? Shiloh. Welcome back. This part seven of Reading with Shiloh. We're on the 28th book to be assassinated, baby. What's up, man? Africans in Colonial, Louisiana by Ms. GWENDOLYN MIDLO Hall. We're on part seven of the book. Part seven of the book. And since I didn't read last night, man, we can go ahead. Since I got an opportunity to read now, we'll go ahead and read, man. We'll go ahead and read. Shalom, Martina. How you doing? We'll go ahead and read now and go ahead and get a little bit of the book out the way and see how far can we get into chapter 3. Let me see. We're in chapter 3, but we're working our way towards chapter 4 is what we're going to do. And we got a good little ways to go. I am good. I'm alive and well, breathing. And since I have breath to breathe, I have all I need to succeed. So it's time to succeed. Succeed at reading. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No Rastafari. No, ma'am. We're just reading. We're going to read about Africans in colonial Louisiana. That's what we're reading about. That is the 28th book on the reading list. 28th, number 28, the 28th book. And we're going to keep pushing and see how many books we can read and what knowledge can we gain from any of these books that we read. Any of them. What treasures await us. We're going to roll through the sea of pages and see if we can find any treasures, expose any lies, and become better. What can we learn and grow from? What can we learn and grow from? Yes, this one will be about slavery. This one, somewhat is it's about some of the slave trade is during the time of when the French had Louisiana and owned Louisiana, and some of the history, or I don't want to say it's historical facts, but some of the things that Ms. GWENDOLYN MIDLO has compiled into a book concerning the French and concerning the Africans that came over during the time of colonial periods and during the time of the Louisiana Purchase, the battles and skirmishes between the British, the Spanish, and the French as well as some of the revolutions. I'm reading this book to go into parallel with the last book I read, which was the Toussaint Louverture and the San Domingo Revolution. So in that book, they mentioned that within the revolutions that were going on in Haiti, it was a lot of Haitian slaves that were sent to Louisiana. And at some point, they stopped the Haitian slaves from coming to Louisiana because of the skirmishes that were going on and the insurrections that were going on. They did not want those insurrections to bring and move over to Louisiana and America, which they already were. So since they mentioned that, I already had this book in my library, so I took it off the shelf. I've never read it. So I'm trying to see if we can draw any parallels from the history that Ms. GWENDOLYN MIDLO Hall has put together in the Africans in colonial Louisiana with the history that was put together in the Toussaint Louverture book. So that's what we're going to do. That's what we are doing. I'm not going to call myself a historian, but we are definitely going through historical books, and we may find historical treasures in them. And if we do so, great, great. But for me, it's just to read. I'm just reading. I'm trying to become a better reader, a better orator, giving my children something to see, a better visual and better imagery, so that way they can hopefully not be as hate reading as much as I did growing up. So we're going to keep pushing. One book at a time. One book at a time. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. It's 9 years. 9 years worth of growth. But we've been having a little routine. Hey, thank you, everybody. Shalom, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to Reading with Shiloh. That's what it is. Reading with Shiloh. We're on the 28th book. The 28th book. And we're trying to build a better us. And within building a better us, we're working on a better routine. A routine and trying to have some consistency. So the objective for Reading with Shiloh is to work your body, work your mind, and then work your body again. And as long as you do that, then hopefully we can be better, health-wise and mentally. So I had moved my way up to 700 things, but man, it's too much. 700 things, but I'm not doing 700 things. I hurt my body. All I ask of you to get off your ass and do 25 to 50 things. Do 25 to 50 things. Well, we're going to do an hour reading. We're going to do an hour reading, Miss Martina. We're going to do an hour reading, at least an hour, about an hour worth. We're going to get to the hour point. But before we get to reading, we're going to work our body. So I'm going to do 50 things. I'm going to do 50 things because I got to work my body back up. I hurt myself. I hurt myself doing too much stuff, I think, so I was hurting for a minute. So I normally have been doing 100 jumping jacks, but I'm not going to do 100 jumping jacks today. I think I'm going to do 50, I don't know what you call them, 50 of these little things. Let me see. All right. Stamp, fries, truck, plate. Okay, what is that?
Oh, I forgot to do that.
We'll go to that one. Mm-hmm. And you need to write better. Write better. Erase that. Erase that. That's correct. That's correct. Erase both of them.
That's right better.
And write them better. What is that?
Duck.
What is this blend?
DU.
Okay, there you go. And look at your name. My name is ugly. Erase it, and write it better, sir. Pull this off, and pull it down, and write it better. Write it better. I'm gonna do my 50 things. I'm gonna do 50. I might do 100. It depends on how I feel when I get to the 50. So 50 of these knee raises, leg raises, whatever you call them, man. So let's go ahead and get that out of the way so we can read, man. Like, comment, subscribe, share, tell your people Shiloh out here reading shit. We're gonna learn shit, do shit. We're gonna build shit, grow shit, carve shit, man. We about to be better. Better. All right, let's do 50. Get yourself up, do something. Move your body, man. Move your body, do something, anything. You know your body. Don't cheat yourself, man. Try to be better. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I might do 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 1, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 8, 69, 70, 71, 2, 73, 4, 75, 6, 77, 78, 9, 80, 1, 82, 3, 84, 85, 6, 87, 8, 9, 91, 93, 94, 5, 96, 97, 8, 9, 100 of them things. I didn't think I could do it, but I did it, baby. I did that thing. I did that thing. 100 of them things. All I ask of you is 25 or 50. 25 or 50, whatever you gonna do. But you gotta start somewhere. You have to start somewhere. Make a change, make a difference. You have to start somewhere. Let me catch my breath. And then we're gonna read. Catch my breath, and then we're gonna read. And see what Miss GWENDOLYN MIDLO Hall has in store for us today. We're in chapter 3, Death and Revolt. Death and Revolt. We still have about, 20, if not more, 20 some pages to get to chapter 4. Got about, let me see, that much before we can get to chapter 4. Let me get my pens ready and highlighters just in case. If there's anything, if this is your first time to the live, if there's anything I don't understand, any words I don't understand, I'm going to take the time to look them up so we can try to get a better understanding. Before we move forward, I'm going to either use the dictionary or the Terminator. I don't like to use the Terminator, but I'll use the Terminator. Terminator's quicker sometimes. This is part 7. Whew. Part 7. Part 7 of Africans in Colonial Louisiana by GWENDOLYN MIDLO Hall, Chapter 3, Death and Revolt. The merchandise does not always die quietly. On October 18, 1724, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the 55 captives stored in the captiverie at Gorée were in the courtyard, where they were normally brought for fresh air. They revolted, armed themselves with pieces of wood and with several knives, and stabbed the French storehouse guards. They removed their shackles with 2 axes they found. And hearing the screams of the warehouse guards, the rest of the French came running to help him. But it was too late, and he was found all bloody, his intestines cut and hanging out of the wound, and he died the next day. The French fired on the captives, killing 2 and wounded 12. Now the captives took refuge inside the captiverie and organized themselves, and the French sealed off the door to the captiverie and remained on alert all night, making fires in the courtyard and on the ramparts. And at 8 o'clock in the next morning, they informed the captives that if they did not surrender, that they would be burned alive. And the captives asked the French to open the doors, which they did at once, and they made the captives come out 2 by 2. Following by 3 guards. And after all of the rebels were brought out, the French found out who the leaders of the revolt were, and tied one of them on 2 pieces of wood and cut him in 4 quarters, and shot 2 others. Man, they did that boy dirty. To serve as an example. And during 1724, only 369 slaves descended from Galam, and the director of the concession insisted that a slaver who had docked his ship at the Gorée go to Judah and not Bissau for his slaves, in spite of the generalized illness among his crew. Now there were barely enough slaves to load onto the ships already in Senegal, and where warfare against the British in Gambia and the Dutch at Arguin Island preoccupied the Senegal concession. Now, resistance aboard the slave trade ships to Louisiana is well documented, and the first conspiracy recorded in the pilot's log took place aboard La Carrière de Bourbon, a ship of 130 tons, which left Laurent on April 8, 1723. It arrived at Senegal on May 1st, a quick voyage, and left Senegal from Gorée on May 9th, and from there it went to Jual, and then to the Gambia River, where it docked before the French trading post on May 30th. Now, thus far, there had been no illness or deaths among the crew, an unusual situation in the haute saison. And on June 28th, the pilot wrote, "We have embarked our blacks this afternoon to the number of 44 men, 11 women, and 2 nursing babes." They returned to Gorée on July 5th. Their baker died. And on July 27th, the captain was forced to load 40 blacks who were arrived from Bissau the day before. And he wanted to keep the blacks though they had brought from Gambia. And the pilot commented, "The governor and the warehouse guard have made a choice of the worst blacks to give us. And most of them are sick, and the rest extremely worn out. And it would be better to give these blacks to La Maréchale d'Estrees, which was going to Martinique or that's during the, that sounds like it's going toward Haiti and towards the Haiti Revolution. To Martinique, and whose journey is nice and short. Now, Le Carrier de Bourbon embarked 60 males and 40 female adults, as well as children, and 4 or 5 nursing babies. And on July 28th, the ship passed Gorée, and the voyage did not go smoothly. And on July 30th, the black tried to jump overboard and drag another black with him. And the captain had him tied to the cannon and lashed with 200 strokes of the garcette, a whip made of braided rope. A punishment that, according to the pilot, he deserved. And on August the 6th, smallpox began to break out among the blacks. And on August 11th, the pilot wrote, "Here it is such a short time since we left Gorée, and 15 or 16 blacks, male as well as female, are already sick with smallpox. Yeah, y'all gave it to them. And during the voyage, smallpox, we fear regrettable consequences, and 12 blacks died of smallpox during the voyage. Now 4 on July, 4 in August, 3 in September, and 1 in October, and another black died of scurvy in November. And on September 16th, Le Carrier de Bourbon arrived in Grenada, and its crew had to submit to the usual blackmail by the French lieutenant in charge there. They sold the black man and the black woman with their nursing baby in exchange for food, and 5 members of the crew deserted in Grenada. As they were leaving Grenada on October 8th, a conspiracy among the slaves was uncovered. A young Negre tried to indicate their gestures to the ship's officers that a revolt was planned, and the officers could not understand clearly what this Negre was saying. They sent for 2 women slaves, one from Senegal and the other from Gorée, to interpret for them. And both of the women claimed that they could not understand the young Negre. They were tied to a cannon to be lashed, but the women still said nothing. And after several other blacks in shackles were lashed, the women from Senegal declared that the Negre, aged about 45, was the sorcerer who raised their vain hopes, and that the woman from Negre knew this as well, but did not want to admit it right away. And they started lashing the woman from Gorée the same as the other blacks. And she affirmed the woman from Senegal's declaration and pointed out the same Negre as leader of the conspiracy to slit the throats of the whites. The pilot wrote, "In the interest of the company as well as the safety of the crew, which is a small number because of desertions and illness, we decided to make a necessary example of such cargoes and to hoist him to the top of the main mast and fire upon him with rifles until death ensued." Now, La Carrier de Bourbon arrived in Belize, the 4th of the mouth of the Mississippi River on November the 1st, 1723. And with 87 blacks, a total that probably included nursing babies. And the survival rate was remarkable for a voyage marked by smallpox and attempted suicide and conspiracy to revolt, and considering that some slaves had been sold to Grenada to obtain food. Le Carrier de Bourbon was lightly packed, and the instructions from Paris indicated that the ship could carry 150 captives. But use your judgment about what this ship can carry without overcrowding her too much. We recommend that you give her only Negres who can tolerate the voyage, and not give her defective or sick captives. And in late 1724, Le Philippe and hold on, excuse me. Send this text. Le Philippe and La Prothie were loaded with slaves in Senegal and sent to Louisiana. Now, the cargo of Le Philippe was seized at Saint Dominique by planters ravenous for slaves, and La Prothie was lost at sea. Yeah, I bet. Now, no slaves landed in Louisiana in 1724 or 1725. And in 1725, the officials of Louisiana reported that the entire colony was impatient for blacks to arrive. The small settlers especially were in great need of blacks, and several colonists who had returned to France could have been kept in the colony if only they had been supplied with slaves, and the officials to the Company of the Indies. Now, threats alternated with promises. Lakhs of black discussed the colonies, who all asked to return to France, and blacks must be sent if one wishes to keep them in the colony. The country will produce indigo and tobacco, provided there is labor with which to do so. And the colonists only ask to be put in condition to work. Now, the harvest is abundant in local foodstuffs, and blacks are needed to establish cultivation and manufacture of tobacco at Natchez. Now, if the French could not compete with the Brazilians for the popularity of the country's tobacco, that they did well with wine, and the slave trade in Senegal picked up with the arrival of La Mutine, which left Laurent on May 30th of 1725 with instructions to bring captives from Senegal to Louisiana. The vessel brought 1,000 bottles of Bordeaux wine and a valuable and welcome commodity that could be exchanged for many captives in Senegal. And St. Robert sent his very humble thanks. 300 bottles went to Galam and 150 to Gorée, and another 150 to Bissou. And St. Robert also had a case of 60 bottles of liquor that had been confiscated from La Moreau and La Marie. Now, La Mutine left Bissou on November 26 of 1725 with 237 blacks, 95 men, 94 women, 46 boys, and 2 girls. 2 men and 2 women were sold in Grenada, and 18 slaves died at sea, 13 of whom were women. And the mortality rate at sea during the French slave trade to Louisiana appeared to be higher among women than among men. Now, La Mutine landed 91 men, 79 women, and 43 boys and girls, and several nursing babies in Louisiana on February 26, 1726. Now, Laura left Laurent on April 2nd, 1725, and arrived in Senegal 36 days later. But it was held up in Senegal because of the pressing need for ships at the concession. Now, Les Saint-Jacques had been lost, and the governor of the Arguin was in desperate need of a ship to supply the island. And La Aurora was also needed in Gambia. And the king of La Barre had invited the Company of the Indies to establish a trading post on his territory at the mouth of the Gambia River. He assured St. Robert that they could trade more than 200 captives there in less than 6 weeks. And St. Robert had planned to send La Aurora to Gambia with a director and supplies for this new trading post, and to pick up 200 captives whom they expected to trade when the Yukons brought their chemins de nigris from the upper Gambia to the Kouas, and their interpot where they kept their captives while awaiting customers near the mouth of the Gambia River, and having to choose between supplying Arguin Island and pressing their advantages in Gambia, he chose Arguin. And after remaining several months in Africa to fulfill the urgent needs of the Senegal concession, La Aurora left Gorée on December 16, 1725 with 350 blacks, and stopped off in Grenada, and arrived in Louisiana on March 29, 1726 with only 290 survivors. Okay, that's better. That's better. That's better, but you need to form your letters better. You need to form your letters better. Your lines need to be straighter. Your name is still crooked. Your name is still crooked. Go get the next one.
Okay.
Take that out and go get the next one.
Wait, put that blue thing. What do you call it? Put it in there. Or just
Yes, sir. Just leave it on the counter. Leave it on the counter and grab you the next one out the blue folder.
Okay.
Now, Peugeot or Pergier, chief engineer of the Louisiana concession, wrote that while the arrival of the blacks from La Mutine and La Aurora pleased the colony infinitely, it is a small number compared to the pressing need one has of them to prevent the colonists, and mainly the best of them, from returning to France, and disgusted because they have had to wait so long for them, and because of the disgraceful rule of this colony. And some of these slaves were kept by the company to engage in public works projects, including the construction of a large permanent levee to protect New Orleans from flooding and cutting down trees in the city to let air to reach the windmill and to allow for tilling the soil. Now, these ambitious projects required many of these long-awaited slaves, and disputes erupted among private citizens over who would get the rest of them. Now, the early phase of the slave trade to Louisiana got off to a slow start, and the slaves came from several parts of Africa, from Judah as well as from the Senegal concession, and one ship came from Cadimba, and there was competition among the European powers and a shortage of slaves, and we can assume that those available were quickly embarked. Now, the trade in Bambara coming down from Gollum on the Senegal River to St. Louis was not especially fruitful, and it is possible that the slaves sent during this earlier stage or earlier phase of the trade had not traveled far to arrive at the coast and did not remain there long awaiting a ship. Now, there was great concern about avoiding her high mortality at sea, which was viewed as costly spoilage of the cargo, and instructions called from preventing overcrowding, providing adequate food, maintaining cleanliness, and avoiding long stays in port and prolonged voyages at sea. And before 1725, the slave trade to Louisiana was characterized by the comparatively low mortality rate at sea and after arrival in Louisiana. Now, the survival rate on voyages before 1725 was relatively high, as shown in the table 3, which is at the top. It gives you a table. In 1718 to 1719, La Aurora embarked with 201 slaves and it landed with 200. In 1719 to 1718, Le Rudy embarked with 130 slaves and it landed with 127. 1720 to 1721, La Marcel d'Estris embarked with 200 and landed with 196. So it's not a lot was dying. But it's still, man. 1722 to 1723, La Expedition embarked with 100, it landed with 91. And in 1723, Le Courrier de Bourbon embarked with 100 and landed with 87. I think they had the most deaths. Le Courrier de Bourbon had the most deaths. Now, between 1719 and 1723, 10 slave ships landed, 2,083 slaves in Louisiana. And although the cargo of La Aurora was landed at Pensacola during its siege by Spain, and the slaves were reported as lost when Spain retook Pensacola from France, the 1726 census of Louisiana listed 1,540 black slaves. Now, blacks survived during these years much better than did whites, and many whites died of hunger, thirst, disease, and lack of medical supplies. And 2 weeks after La Nereide arrived from Cabinda in the spring of 1721, Benneville and Delorme wrote, "Death and disease are disrupting and suspending all operations. And if the famine does not end, all is lost, and the best workers are dead. And when the slaves from l'expedition arrived from Senegal on October 1723, an official wrote, "We are here in a state of general famine, and the colony is in the final stages of misery due to the lack of food, drink, merchandise, as well as medicines. And as a result, most of our convalescents relapse or die." And how can we explain the relatively high survival rate among the Africans between 1719 and 1726 in spite of famine in the colony? There are several reasons we can consider. The Africans were probably better adapted to the climate than were the French and German settlers, and they were resistant to malaria, which no doubt prevailed in the mosquito-ridden climate, and were skilled at feeding themselves through hunting, fishing, and cultivating rice, corn, melons, and other food crops. Now, the market at Gollum was not very productive during these years, and so fewer of the slaves embarked from having been weakened by a long voyage from the interior. And because of fierce competition among Europeans to purchase slaves in a relatively open market, the slaves were not generally held for long periods of time in captivities along the coast of Africa, and were therefore stronger during the Atlantic crossing and when they arrived in Louisiana. Another reason for the survival of the Africans could be the uses to which they were put. And before the Company of the Indies replaced Benneville with Paris, in August of 1726, Benneville had operated in a predatory tradition of the Caribbean, seizing, displaying, and consuming wealth rather than creating it. And his rule was replaced by that of ambitious, hard-driving officials. Yes, sir. Hard-driving officials of the Company of the Indies. I love you, my son. Go finish your work. Of the companies of the Indies, who were determined to enforce their monopoly of trade throughout their far-flung concessions and to turn a profit for their stockholders. Now, they operated under the illusion that the Indians of Louisiana and Africans on both sides of the Atlantic were instruments for creating wealth and not human beings capable of defending themselves. This was their fatal mistake, and the Company of the Indies plans for Louisiana were destroyed in 1729 by indigenous people of Africa and America. Now, after the major role in ending the Company of the Indies, control of Louisiana, and along with it, the African slave trade to that colony, the founding of a new, ambitious Company of the Indies had inspired great optimism among its officials, and in 1720, Brouillet, then director of the Senegal concession, wrote that the company was given a monopoly of trade in Senegal, Louisiana, Cape Negri, the East Indies, and in China, and of the shipping of the South Sea, and had made plans and arrangements which are so beautiful and so solid and so approved that it has become the strongest and most powerful company in the world. And the Company of the Indies and its official had reckoned without their victims. By early 1727, peace reigned among the European powers in the Senegal concession, and on January 17, 1727, the Company of the Indies and the Dutch West Indies Company signed a treaty in which the Dutch company recognized the French company's exclusive trade monopoly over the entire Senegal concession from Cape Blanc to the Sierra Leone River, and specifically renounced its claims to Arguin Island in return for the indemnity. What is that? What is indemnity? The indemnity of 30,000 florins. Indemnity. What is indemnity? Indemnity. Indemnity refers to a promise or guarantee to cover a potential loss or damage, almost like insurance. That's what it seems like. Oh, it can be a form of insurance, yeah. or a contractual obligation where one party agrees to compensate another for specific losses, even if the liable party is not at fault, according to Wex.
Indemnity.
Indemnity. Florins. What is florins? Florins. Not Florence, florins. F-L-O-R-I-N-S. Florin. Florin, a former British coin, the monetary unit worth 2 shillings. Florin. So they renounced the claims to Arguin Island in return for an insurance of 30,000 florins or 60,000 shillings. On February 19, 1727, a peace treaty was signed with the English recognizing the Company of the Indies' right to establish a slave trading post in the Gambia River at El Albreda or Bettini, and the English of Fort St. James agreed to cooperate on occasions when life and the property of the Company of the Indies was at stake, as well as in expelling interlopers. Now, peace and stability arrived in Senegal just as Judah went up in flames, and Dada of Dahomey, ooh, shit, let me mark that, Dahomey. Ain't that movie about the Woman King? Ain't that where that movie, The Woman King, come from? The Dahomey tribe? The Dada of Dahomey overthrew the kingdom of Judah on March 3rd, 1727, and Captain Rainguard of La Marie wrote the detailed eyewitness account of the warfare, which totally disrupted commerce in the region. And on February 12th, 1729, the captain of the slave ship La Méduse wrote from Judah, "There are no more inhabitants, and the country is deserted." And you can imagine, or you can image how hard it is to find captives. Get some damn French. Bring some French captives. Bring some British and European captives. You know, that's one thing I don't really hear about. You know, within the different wars that the French, British, the Dutch, the Spanish had, they never put those people as slaves. They never put them to work. You know, as most of the slaves, as we read earlier in the book, most of the slaves that came from like the Bambara or from up the Senegal in the Senegal concession, they were those Africans were already at war, so these were prisoners of war. So a lot of the prisoners of war is what they went and took as slaves and sent to Louisiana. So why not take the French prisoners of war and the Spanish prisoners of war and the Dutch and British prisoners of war and make them slaves? The Company of the Indies was at last in a position to enforce its exclusive right to trade in the Senegal concession, and between 1727 and 1729, practically every slave trade voyage organized by the Company of the Indies from its port of Laurent was intended to carry slaves to Louisiana. And in November of 1728, Louisiana officials noted that the arrival of La Fleury and Le Prince de Conti arrived 15 days later, and La Diane the following month, and they were expecting La Galathie at any moment. Now they wrote, We will do our best to make known the good intentions that you have for this colony. And the colonists on their part are too encouraged by the help they receive from you to frustrate the hopes that you have given them for the success of their efforts. And the slave trade voyages to Louisiana through 1723 had a loss in transit of only 3.6%, an unusual low rate for the African slave trade of the times, and especially considering that the voyage to Louisiana required considerably more time at sea than did the voyages to the Caribbean. And during 1724 and 1725, no ships had landed, no slave ships landed. Now, the African slave trade to Louisiana resumed on a large scale in 1727, and in sharp contrast with the earlier years. The loss in transit during this last and most active period of the African slave trade to Louisiana was high. Now, the best explanation for this difference is the poor condition of the slaves embarked in Africa as a result of the ability of the Company of the Indies to enforce its trade monopoly in Senegal, and the success of the trading posts at GWENDOLYN, which began at last to send substantial numbers of captives down the Senegal River to Fort Louis. Now, after enduring a stay in the captivity at GWENDOLYN following a long journey downriver, captives sickened and died in the captries along the Atlantic coast while awaiting long-delayed ships belonging to the Company of the Indies. And by the time these tardy ships arrived, many of the surviving slaves were in no condition to withstand the transatlantic crossing. Now, documents from France, from Senegal, and from Louisiana all recognize that the long stay in the captivities was the principal cause of the high mortality at sea and after landing. And the African slave trade to French Louisiana confirms Joseph C. Miller's conclusion that the experience of enslavement in Africa exercised a major influence over the levels of mortality at sea. If during the early 1720s, there were not enough slaves to fill the slave ships, the opposite problem existed for after peace reigned in the Senegal concession. There were not enough ships to embark the slaves, and a steady stream of captives filled the captiveries while the Company of the Indies struggled to refit its ships in Laurent and send them back quickly to Senegal to load them. The captives died in mass in the captiveries, and the survivors were so weakened that many of them died aboard ship. Now, the loss in transit on most of the slave ships landed after 1726 was devastating. And when these ships arrived in Louisiana, they had to enter the Mississippi River at Belize, and in the face of the contrary winds and tides, the ever-shifting sandbars that blocked the channels, sick and dying, exhausted, short of food and water, often without clothing, even in midwinter, the captives awaited the days for flatboats and pirogues. I know that's how you spell it. Pirogues, the little boats, the pirogues. My grandfather called my boat a pirogue. A pirogue? What are you gonna do with that little pirogue? Oh, Lord. And pirogues, flatboats. The captives awaited for days for flatboats and pirogues to take them up the Mississippi River to New Orleans. Now, where they often encountered food shortages, and many of them died on their way to New Orleans or shortly after their arrival. Now, many captives from Le Prince de Conti developed two illnesses, dysentery and an inflammation of the eyes that left many of them sightless and in one eye or total blind. Now, officials at the Company of the Indies auctioned off the sick slaves, getting as much as they could for them, and those left unsold were placed with colonists with 1 month's guarantee. If they don't make it, you get your money back. Bring your receipt. Like Walmart. Bring your receipt. You got your receipt for that slave? 1 month's guarantee. We guarantee. Now, the voyage of Le Duc de Naël is a good example of the toll of mortality during these last French slave trade voyages to Louisiana. And this 250-ton ship left Laurent on May 5th, 1727, to collect captives to Louisiana and Senegal. Now, under Captain Dupuis, and with a crew of 63 men and with 16 cannons mounted, it arrived in Senegal on June 6th and was in the Gorée between July 27th and October 15th. And it stopped at the raid of Senegal between October 21st and November 15th, while small boats loaded it with 86 captives from the captivity in Fort St. Louis. Now, it left Senegal on November 15th with 347 captives, and the death toll began before the ship left Senegal. The pilot's log kept an unusual complete account of mortality. Man, it's a bunch of numbers here. These next 2 pages is just, it's a log. It's the log for the captain, which I'm not going to read. Our cook, 6 for 8 days and died in bed between Gorée and Senegal. Negri, a Cooper from Laurent. These are what they're picking up. Negri, a nursing baby boy from between Senegal and Saint Dominique. 2 Negris, one age 24, a Negriti, 9.5, and a nursing baby boy. 3 Negris, a Negri age between 26 and 30, a Negri, sudden death, a Negri, age between 24 and 26. And it gives a date. It gives a date, like date by date by date. And it's not many days between each date. And it does that for like 2 pages. In spite of their own problems, they sent 10 Negris aboard La Carrière de New Orleans and on January 19th to help in maneuver because it did not have enough crew members. And La Carrière de New Orleans was to accompany the Le Duc de Noël to Louisiana. And on January 24th, Le Duc de Noël left Quai St. Louis for Louisiana, leaving behind 18 sick captives in Saint Dominique. And between Saint Dominique and Louisiana, the death toll continued. Yeah, and it keeps going on. Another list. Now, Le Duc de Noël waited at Belize from February 12th until February 19, when 2 pirogues arrived to take its blacks to New Orleans. And on February 21st, the flute, Le Laurie, embarked all the sick blacks and sailors. And between Belize and New Orleans, 20 more captives died, and the entire cargo arrived sick with scurvy and dysentery. It seems that the cargo, for sanitary and security reasons, was kept practically nude on French slavers. But the climate of Louisiana in winter was not the climate of the French islands. Shirts and cloaks were supposed to have been issued to the captives in Saint Dominique. And since this did not happen, La Chaise sent shirts and cloaks to Belize for them. And they embarked 2/3 of the captives on La Laurie, so they would be warmer. But it was too late, and they were thoroughly chilled. And Piri and La Chaise complained. And if the vessel had found cloaks at Saint Dominique upon its arrival, as it should have, we could have very well have Ming upon the arrival. Let's see what that word is and how you pronounce it. Mingue. Mingue. Ming. Mingue. Mingue. Hold on.
You trying to look something up?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What did you don't know?
This word, M-I-N-G-U-E. I wonder how you pronounce it. It doesn't say. The Ming is not a standard English word. It is likely a misspelling. It could be referred to a few different things. Let's see what it says. It's not a Korean masculine given name. It's not Japanese. It says an informal, the Mingi, informal adjective meaning miserly and stingy.
Stingy? Talking about stingy. I'm stingy. It's stingy.
A term of endearment used to address and or to describe a person or animal. A Ming.
Animal?
Let me read it again and see what it says. If this vessel had found cloaks in Saint Dominic, oh, no wonder, because I'm reading it wrong. I'm reading it wrong. It's a continuation. It's a continuation. Yes, sir. If this vessel had found cloaks at Saint Dominic upon its arrival, as it should have, we could have very well have saved many of them. That makes a lot more sense.
You're in the wrong place.
Yes, sir. I read it wrong.
You did somewhere else. You did that and then somewhere else. No, it wasn't.
Okay. Pretzel, thought, spider, blow, stairs, track. Good job. We'll get the next one. Put this one up and get the next one and do the next one. I'll check it. I'm almost done.
Okay.
We're gonna finish off this page. We'll finish it. We're almost to an hour. We'll finish off this page and get to, because the next page is just a copy of, I guess, a ledger, copy of a ledger, or it says, oh, the pilot's log. So we're not gonna be able to read that. So I'm gonna skip that and we're gonna stop on the next page. We'll finish this page and get to the next paragraph and we'll stop there. Now, only 242 arrived here. Don't worry about the top. Yes, sir. I'll call the words out to you after I'm done. Look, it says, circle the special sounds and mark the vowels. So do both. Circle the special, I know. Circle the special sounds and mark the vowels. And then the bottom one says, fill in the circles under the word that completes the sentence. Read the sentence and which word you think goes best with it. Read the first sentence for me.
Kate.
Mm-hmm. Not aimed. And
Liz.
Kate and Liz what? Try the word.
Here.
No, that's here. What is the words that you have to choose? Kate and Liz. Bring it here. Sound it out. Kate and Liz.
Blame.
Good job. Kate and Liz blame here, or Kate and Liz? Don't just sound it out in your mind. Don't sound it out in your mind. When you sound it out in your mind, you could mispronounce it. You open your mouth, say it, say what you think it is, so that way you can hear yourself say it and you can catch it. If you mispronounce it, you can catch it. So sound it out. Close, you close. Say it louder so you can hear yourself. No, not blame. What is that? No. You're close. It's not B. What letter is that?
P.
And it says what?
P.
Okay, say that.
P.
Mm-mm.
Pl.
Okay. That is the special word. That's a special sound. Long A. Say it. Say it. I see it. I see you saying it.
Pray.
Not pray. Not pray. You gotta put what you said first.
Play.
That, yes. Go ahead. I heard it.
Play. Prayers.
No, sir. No, sir. Come on, man. Come on. Pl.
Pl. Plup.
I know pluck. What is the P? Come on. You got to read what is there. Don't make up words in your mind. Read what you see. What you see. What letters do you see?
PL.
PL what? It's right there. Don't look at me. You plus is right. But PL what?
A.
A what? You look at it and see. Don't think in your mind. It's right there. You don't have to think about it. You look at it and you say what you see. What letters do you see?
P. I.
No, that's not an I, son.
PLAY.
That's okay. That's what you see. So that's what you need to sound. You need to sound that. AY says?
Pr.
No, AY. Just AY.
IY.
No. It's special. It's special. When you have it like this, it makes the long A sound. Long A says what?
A.
Okay. So read it now.
Pray.
Not pray.
Pr. A.
P what?
PL.
Okay.
Play.
There you go. There you go. Now, Kate and Liz blame here, or Kate and Liz what?
Play.
Here. Which one is it?
Play.
Now, look, there's no need for what you're doing. Wipe your eyes. Dry your face. You have to do what you have to do, son. If you sound it out, stop sounding it out in your mind. Say it loud. Say it loud. It don't matter. Yeah, you might be wrong. You might be wrong, but let you hear yourself be wrong. When you hear yourself be wrong, then you can make the adjustments that you need to make. Okay, PR, no R in there. What letters are there? Say the letters. Say them out loud. I get words wrong all the time, but I take my time. I try to sound it out. And if I can't sound it out, I'm going to look it up. I'm going to look it up, but I'm going to sound it out the best way I can. But you have to say it out loud first and foremost. All right? And the more you say it out loud, the less you're going to be scared. The less you're going to be scared to say it. You succeed. You have all you need to succeed. So let's do so. You can do it. I know you can do it because you already did it. So there's no reason to cry. Not about this. There's a time and a place for everything. And this is not a time to cry because this is no reason to cry because it's up to you. You have to be paying attention. I can show you what to do, but you have to learn it. You have to want to learn it as well. Do you want to learn to read?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if you want to learn to read, what must you do?
Practice.
There you go. But practice does not include crying. Don't be scared. Don't be scared to read. Don't let fear cause you to stop doing what you're trying to do. Because that's what it's trying to do. It's trying to stop you from doing what you need to do and from what you want to do and from what you have to do. In order for you to learn more, what do you need to be able to do?
Practice.
No. Yes, practice is one, but what do you need to do to be able to learn? If you want to take any of these books and learn something, what do you need to do?
Learn.
To what?
Read.
There you go. You need to learn how to read, but don't let the fear stop you. That's all it is. You have to keep your emotions in check because that fear is just an emotion. It is emotion that you have to keep in check. For as strong as you are, you have to be strong in your mind as well. And sometimes it's hard, but you have to gain control. You have to control it. You understand?
Yes, sir.
All right. Take your time. Read it out loud. Let's read the next one.
John
Yes, sir.
can
Can what? Can he?
can cow K.
CR says what?
I thought that was
Okay. No, but you got to read both of them. You need to figure out which one goes there. So you're going to need to read the sentence with both.
Correct.
Yes, sir. That's correct. That's correct. Okay, keep reading. CR says cr.
Crack
There you go. John can crack,
the nut.
or John can.
Play.
Yes, sir. Say it. Say it.
Play.
There you go. There you go. You see, you got it right the first time, but you need to continue to speak it out loud. Say it out loud. Listen to yourself. Say it. Might be wrong, but it might be right, and you got it right the first time. So John can crack the nut, or John can clean the nut.
Correct.
Okay, so now you know which one to do. But don't be scared. Stop being scared. Stop letting fear take over you. Don't let fear take over you. You have to be stronger than that. Now, there's a time and a place to be afraid. There's a time and a place for fear to pop up. But this is not the time and place for it. So knowing that it's not the time and the place, I shouldn't be scared to read. I shouldn't be scared of letters. There's no reason for that. So make sure you dry your eyes, perk yourself back up, clean your face off, and get to doing what you know you can do, what you have the strength in you to do. You have all you need to succeed, son. So what you have to do?
Succeed.
So let's do it. Let's do it. Succeed. There you go. My bad. Excuse me. Yeah, let's finish this off. Let's finish this off. Only 242 arrived here, and we put the sickest numbering 120 into the hospital, 110 into the hospital, separating those suffering from scurvy from those suffering from dysentery. But little by little, all of them got dysentery, and at least another 25 died. Now, the company was assured that these deaths did not result from neglect, and the sick captives had been well taken care of, and they were given fresh meat mixed with bread every day. Yeah, right. Some of those who were less sick were distributed to the colonists, including to those who could only purchase them on credit, and one on condition that they promised to furnish a slave for 30 days for public works. Now, many of these slaves were returned to the hospital the same day or the day after they were purchased. And on its way back to France, Le Duc de Noël was pursued by pirates in the Bahamas Straits, near the Martyrs Crossing. And these official reports about that the captives of La Duc de Noël suffered the same fate as those of L'Annibal, a slave ship that arrived in Louisiana in 1727, and no information is available on the number of slaves it embarked or landed. However, we do know that L'Annibal loaded Bambara in St. Louis, and they had come from a great distance inland and were held at the captiverie in Galam, and then in St. Louis for another undeterminable length of time. Now, the voyage of La Galathie was deadly for the crew as well as for the captives, and this 300-ton ship was supposed to arrive in Senegal the end of May by the latest, but it did not leave Laurent until May 27th, and it arrived in Senegal a month later. And on August 31st, the vessel picked up a cargo of 131 women and children in the raid of Senegal for the captiverie of Gorée. Now, after making several trips between Senegal and Gorée, it left Gorée on October 21st with 400 captives, men, women, and children. And we're going to stop there. We're going to stop there. Let me see how many pages we got left. Not much. We'll finish chapter 3 tonight. I'm going to make sure of that. We're going to finish chapter 3 tonight. We'll come back later on tonight. Man, I'm going to go cook. I'm going to get up and go cook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 pages. I'm going to get up and go cook. And we'll come back later on tonight. What time is it? 4:12. Man. I'm going to say about 7:30 before the sun go down. I want to start reading before the sun go down. Tonight, at least tonight. I want to start reading early before the sun go down because I got an early start tomorrow. We're going to be in that garden all day tomorrow. I still got 3 rows to dig up and till, 3 rows to turn and till. We'll do that. Yeah, so I'll come back and read. We're going to finish off chapter 3 tonight. And that'll be part 8. Part 8 will be the conclusion of chapter 3, Death and Revolt. And tomorrow afternoon, most likely, tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow night after the Sabbath starts, probably we'll open up or we'll start chapter 8. Either that or after the Sabbath. After the Sabbath or Saturday night, we'll probably start chapter 4. We'll start chapter 4. And chapter 4 is not even that long. It may take us 2 sessions. We probably finish chapter 4 Sunday. We'll start it Saturday night, and we'll probably finish chapter 4 Sunday. But we'll keep pushing. We'll keep pushing. This has been part 7 Part 7 of Reading with Shallow and the Africans in Colonial Louisiana by Miss Gwendolyn Midlo Hall. By Miss Gwendolyn Midlo Hall. Matter of fact, go put your clothes on so we go to the store. We succeeded. That's what we had to do. We had everything we needed to succeed, so we succeeded in the reading for today. We succeeded in a reading for this session, this live, this reading with Shiloh. It was a lot of things that I think it's a lot of historical dates, man. That's within this book so far. That's one thing that is consistent: the dates, a lot of dates. So which continues to lead me to believe that this was probably a book based on his history class. A history class based upon, Louisiana, because it does come from LSU. It does say LSU on the side. So it's probably an LSU textbook. It might be an LSU textbook. I do not know. I have not looked it up to find out. So it might be an LSU textbook, but shit, man. Hey, we're making headway. We're making headway through the book. We'll keep pushing to see what Miss Gwendolyn Midlo Hall has to say. What has she put together and how she put it together. We'll see if there's anything else. I don't believe that, some of the stuff in this book I do not believe at all. I'm going to set that forth. I don't believe it. But, the objective is to read. The objective is to read it and see what can we see within the book. I don't believe that they fed them meat and bread every day. If they kept their asses naked, I don't see why they would feed them meat and bread every day, meat and bread every day. Hey. I don't believe that. Oh man, meat and bread every day. It was starving them people probably. It was starving them in that thing, man. But it is what it is, I don't believe that, the number of slaves or the number of, if the slavery thing was real, I'm not saying that people in Louisiana weren't slaves. I just don't know or believe that they were all African slaves. I believe that most of the slaves were the copper color, what they call Indians or indigenous people who are already here, like the Attackapaw's and from where I'm from, Opelousas, the Opelousas Indians, where the name Opelousas comes from. I think those were the slaves that they took and used. It says that they took some as well. Within this book, it does say they took some, but it doesn't give the number maybe because of the title. The title says Africans in Colonial Louisiana. It doesn't give as much background, or they might not even have made, and maybe I'm giving them too much credit. They might not have made as much of a log with the natives that they took captive here, as well as the Africans. I think they just bunched them all together. They looked alike. They thought they looked alike. The only difference was the attributes or the characteristics of the people. They said that within this book, it is said so far that the slaves that were brought from the Senegal concession were more easily, they were more docile. They were more docile, and because they were used to being prisoners of war and captives of war, and they would work for the captors. They would work for their captors and sometimes be let go back and were able to go home after a period of time. They probably thought it was the same type of situation. So they worked hard for them to be in their good graces. And they did work, and it seemed like they wasn't even working at all. And compared to the Indians or the natives, which were not as docile and they were not as hardworking, and mainly probably because they knew where they were. They knew where they were, and I'm not working for you. Man, this is my land. Why the hell who gave you right to my land? Which is probably the mindset that they had. So I could understand that. And in the earlier chapter, or earlier in this chapter, they said that they were going as far as to selling or trading 2 Indians for 1 African. And they would do that the Caribbean, or Saint Dominique, Martinique, Saint Martinique as well. They were trading these Indians. So two for the price of one. Two for the price of one. They were getting, in some places, if they took the deal, were getting way more than what they were getting double the amount they traded out. So, I don't know who wouldn't take that trade, who wouldn't take two for one. They was whipping them already. So they'll probably whip them into submission, torture them into submission. In the other book, in the Toussaint Louverture book, it said that they were bearing a lot of the slaves up to their neck and putting honey and stuff on them for the insects to get them. So when they had brutality and cruelty and such nature, and this is the French that were doing this. This is the French. So why would the French in the Caribbean be any different from the French in Louisiana? Why would the Spanish in the Caribbean be any different from the Spanish in Louisiana or in the Americas? Or even the British. The British was doing, barbarous stuff as well in the Caribbean, in Saint Dominique and Saint Martinique, Jamaica as well. Why would it be any different? I believe the characteristics, the mannerisms, and the it would be yeah, my bad. I don't know what happened, but we almost done anyway. But like I was saying, it was just most likely a continuation of what was already going on. Um, what was already going on in those locations. Your enemy is your enemy, and your enemy had a certain thought. As you can see, even in this, they thought that they had rights to these people. They thought that they had rights to these places, and they thought they could do what they want to do with them, as long as these people were made for them to make money off the back of, so, and they would do with them as they wished. Just like what they did for that guy, for the older age or the middle-aged guy, that they beat the women into saying that he was the leader. They raised him up on the main mast and they opened fire on his ass until he was dead. So, hey, I don't see, if this shit was to happen to them, oh, it would be such an uproar. How dare they? How could they? But it is what it is, man. It is what it is. These are just books. I wasn't there. I don't know, if a lot of this stuff happened, but I can imagine. The things that have happened in today's time. I can imagine how, with more freedom, the atrocities that could have taken place that are not even written about. And then the ones that are written about, the number is way higher. I know the number. I have the thought to believe that the number is way higher than what was written, because they like to embellish the numbers. A lot of people didn't want to seem, especially when they was taking cargo. So they would embellish the numbers. Say they got this many when they had more. They trying to keep it for themselves, keep slaves for themselves, so shit. It's all grave. It is what it is. The truth will come out. The lies gonna be unearthed and the truth will come out. So let the lies be exposed. But whatever they want to hide from somebody, they put in the book. So let's open the book and see what they have hidden. See what is left in the depths of the sea of pages. And let's be like Jacques Cousteau and dive down deep and find the treasures that await us. Find the treasures that await us and see what we can learn and grow from. And once again, the objective is to be better. Better. You have to burn down the plantations that's in your mind and build anew. But sometimes it's going to be harder said than done. So you have to get your ass up and do something. And whether that be starting with little things like reading things that you have never read before, doing stuff that may take you out your comfort zone. And believe me, since I started reading, I have definitely come out of my comfort zone by reading. It's not a hard task. Don't get me wrong. It's not a hard task. It's just hard in my mind for me. That sleep monster used to weigh on me. sleep. Every time I try to read. Sleep, nigga, sleep. How dare you read? Slumber. But I've been uppercutting that damn thing good. Oh, I'm reading. And I've been getting to the task and succeeding. And the more I read, the better I get. The more fluent in my reading I become, which I like. The better, the easier it is to understand, which I like. But that comes with time and practice. You know, so let's keep pushing one day at a time, man. One book at a time, one session at a time, one part at a time, one chapter at a time, one page at a time, here a little, there a little, line upon line, till we seek and find what has been left behind for us to unearth what treasures await us. Man, like, comment, subscribe, share, tell your people, man. SHILO out here reading shit. We learning shit. We doing shit, man. We growing shit. We gonna build some shit. We gonna do some adventures, fishing and hunting some shit, and we gonna be better. We are going to be better because we have all we need to succeed. As long as we have breath in us, we have all we need to succeed. So we worked our body. We worked our mind for sure. Let's work our body one last time. I'm gonna give it 100 more than me bangs. Well, I felt like I was stepping to stomp the yard, but it's hey, but it's all gravy, man. Every little bit helps. Man. You want to get that weight off, you got to move your ass around, and the weight gonna start falling down. Get off me, weight. Get off me. You know, you want to be better. You want to be healthy, man. You want to be healthy for those that's come after you, man. I want to play with my sons, man. They be trying to jump me. So I got to be ready, man, to hit them with a wingtip. Get back. I got to be strong enough to hold them boys up, you know. I got to be strong enough for whatever trials that's going to come my way. And there's going to be a lot of them. I have to be strong enough to choose the right choices for whatever choices come my way. And there's going to be a lot of them. So what better way than to use y'all as a stepping stone, to use y'all as you can do it. I can't think of the word, man. Motivation. To use y'all as motivation, and hopefully I can motivate y'all, you know, to do better. I'll use y'all as motivation to keep me pushing, and hopefully I'll motivate y'all to keep pushing, man. So let's get this 100 in right quick. Let's get this 100 of these things in, and that'll be 200 things for the day, baby. 200 things for this session, this reading session. I don't know how many you did, but hopefully you've done at least 25 or 50, so at least you can get 100 in, you know. And if you don't do nothing else all day, at least you did something. So get your ass up. Do something. Do something. Do something. Do something. I'm going to do 100. I'm going to do 100 of them things. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 6, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 6, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 2, 93, 4, 95, 6, 97, 8, 99, 100. Oh, I feel it all here in my inner thigh, in my inner meat, my thigh meat. But we did 100, man. I got my 100 out the way. Once again, this has been part 7. Part 7 of Africans in Colonial, Louisiana by Miss GWENDOLYN MIDLO Hall. Shalom, everybody. I appreciate everybody that stopped by, left a message, put a like in the on the like thing. All that helps the channel. All that helps the channel to grow. So let's keep growing. Let's keep growing and doing our thing. Whew. I'm SHILO, baby. I'm out here. Until next time, SHILO out.